Get yourself a notebook paper and you can actually write things down. But when you accomplish something, you just scratch it out. And you scratch it out, I like to make a big old dark mark there, because the more dark marks that I see on that paper, the more I've gotten done.
First of all, it isn't somebody else that can make you feel any way. That perception or initiation of a feeling comes from inside yourself. When we work with people in the clinic or in the office, we always end with saying a positive affirmation. When you're hanging there, you can get some decompression in the discs of the spine, the lumbar spine, the thoracic spine, all the way up into your neck and shoulders.
Tomorrow,
It's
I love
only
you. Tomorrow,
a day away.
it's only a day away. How many times have we heard that? Let's put things off until tomorrow, or let's start on Monday, or let's wait until next week. Let's do that one later. What are we talking about? We're talking about procrastination. I like to term it avoidance. Avoidance of what one needs to do, what one needs to get done, putting it off till later. It never serves us well, does it?
No, it doesn't. And there are a lot of simple tips or tricks that we can do to prevent procrastination. I know in my own personal life, one of the things that I do to ensure that I get things that need to be done is to plan my day before it even starts. And that means making a list of what needs to be done and actually checking it off before day's end.
As you know, I make those lists every day.
Yes, you do.
And I did that way before I met you, because when you got a lot of stuff going, if you make the list, and I've seen people do them on cell phones, but this is a little trick you can try to do. Get yourself a notebook paper and actually get a pen out. Now, I know this might seem foreign. You can actually write things down. It's really cool. You can write and spell and see it on paper. I'm being funny with that. But when you accomplish something, you just scratch it out. And you scratch it out, I like to make a big old dark mark there, because the more dark marks that I see on that paper, the more I've gotten done. So that's one thing that we've done with lists, and they work really well.
Yes, lists seem to get the job done if we'll actually do it and check it off. Another thing that works really well is something called the nothing alternative, where you actually set a period of time during the day or a couple of days of the week where you set time aside to do things that you need to get done. And if you're not getting them done, the specific things that you need to get done, you only have one other choice, and that's to do nothing. So oftentimes, if you're absolutely bored in that time you've set aside, it will drive you to your list to get done what you need to get done and what you're procrastinating from finishing.
Poor planning, or poor planning to plan, equals poor performance. It really does. And so you're talking about planning something there, which goes back to lists and goes back to being able to block out time. I think another thing people need to think about too is everybody's going to have on a list from time to time that thing that you don't want to do. You're just like, you dread it. You know it's going to take a lot of work, effort. It might be hard. Might be all those things. But we avoid it. It is best to knock that one out at the beginning of the day as opposed to the end, because we'll continue to push it out there further. One of the things that we use as an example in this case is even exercise. I'll do it later. I don't want to get up. But we need to do it. Everybody needs to do it. What's the best time to do something that you probably is your least favorite to do? First thing in the morning, because you get it done. And then what does that do to us psychologically? It makes us feel better. It makes us feel accomplished. So let's flip that around. What does it do to us psychologically when we don't do something we should be doing? We put it off. Psychologically, we feel defeated. So we're talking about something that yields victory or defeat within the psychology of the human experience.
Well, absolutely. So we lose our confidence and we lose our productivity if we have shame about what we're not doing. So setting goals that are actually doable and attainable would be something else. If you're procrastinating from something, have you set the goals too lofty and are they unreachable? That sets you up to procrastinate against moving in the direction of success.
Goal should be set in this mindset, failure proof. I've talked about this for years and years and years. When you have a person or a situation that has a history of procrastination, this is no fault on anybody because we can all fall into this. You got to set the goals and they got to be failure proof. Why? Because that builds patterns of success, which yields more and more confidence and even trustworthiness in your own self to be able to accomplish anything. So like if you procrastinate starting an exercise plan, well, don't set an exercise plan where you're going to do it 7 days a week if you've been doing it 0. How about 1 day a week? You say you're going to start doing some exercise like walking outside. Well, don't set out there every day I'm going to do an hour. You might try 10 minutes 5 days a week. That's 50 minutes a week. So we're talking about little baby small habits, and that does help us in the success ratios, but it also helps us in the ability to defeat, and I'm talking about crush this procrastination that can become a spirit gets inside of you and it becomes addictive.
Another thing that I have known in my own personal life that really helps is to adjust the environment. Sometimes it's as simple as cleaning off the desk and making sure I'm organized and knowing where I can find things. If things are cluttered and unreachable or unattainable, it leads to procrastination.
Well, procrastination is really disorganization, is really chaos. And so all of us out there can, if we choose to have that closet that has all kinds of clutter. And we're just like, what is that? Cluttered mind, cluttered closet, cluttered space leads to procrastination because it's overwhelming. Overwhelmingness probably is a sign of leading to procrastination. So we've given you some great tips today. Great, healthy tips that are going to lead you down a pathway of procrastination so that when you defeat that, you can walk down the pathway towards some of the greatest victories of your life.
Is somebody causing you great depression and anxiety in your life?
If so, maybe separation is the key, or maybe changing you is the key. Find out how next. Our Kingdom Candy with a K again. 2 flavors. We got salted caramel and peanut butter. These are great. I mean, they're
kind of like a complete meal.
yeah, they're 200 calories. People want to know that all the time, and not that we're worried about calories, but these things have great ingredients. They're not sweetened with sugars. They don't have those false sugars or fake sugars, artificial
They've got
sugars.
fiber in them.
They do. It's interesting. Salted caramel crunch is our newest flavor. We'll come up with some other stuff at some point, but those can bridge the gap of that sweet tooth craving. They're sweetened with monk fruit, and that's really, if you know what that is, it's not going to raise blood sugar.
It's really only 2 grams of sugar. I refer to it as that sweet without the cheat.
Any of these things out here are designed to be money-saving, nutrition-giving, and life-enhancing. And this is a big deal. So you'll find out, like thousands of other people did, that these things will help you live healthy longer.
Have you ever witnessed any miracles in your lives about anything that you would think of that could be along the same kind of line if you had any kind of parallel with it?
I guess like my mom and I moving to the country. That was like a big gamble. We moved on the 4th of July, so our anniversary's coming up on moving here. And then that was a huge gamble that she took. I was 4, so I didn't realize what it was. But I don't think if we stayed in Hungary, I would be here right now making this movie. So I guess that's the closest in my life that I have to like kind of a miracle that I didn't know was gonna happen.
For me, I actually, when I was like 5 or 6, something like that, I had some kind of disease with like my kidneys that is like super rare and they only study about in med school, but they never really saw a case. So I had it. So I had like doctors from all over like the States kind of coming in and looking at me.
Wow.
and I technically died for like 10 seconds. I flatlined.
Whoa.
Yeah, my mom went out to grab a Buzz Lightyear VHS that I really liked, and when she came back, it was like complete flatline. And I saw an angel that day, which was pretty crazy because the first thing I said to my mom apparently was that there was a really nice man with blonde hair and blue eyes, like saying it's okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's
I am
pretty crazy.
That's insane. And I'm also so glad I went first. And, I wouldn't have been able to top that. Wow. That's amazing.
Exploring biohacking, bioharmonizing, biosynergizing, stacking, resilience, or anti-fragility.
Start here. No gimmicks, just proven results. Do other people drive you crazy? Do other people drive you batty? Do other people drive you into depression? Is it always somebody else's fault? Do they contribute to it? Finally, the question we ask ourselves is, could there be something that we could do about it? I think all those questions and more need to be addressed because, let's face it, depression is a big thing. The majority of doctor's office visits today have a complained symptom of depression. So as we talk about this idea of depression, sweetheart, there are people that say things like this: they make me depressed. Comment on that.
Well, first of all, it isn't somebody else that can make you feel any way. That perception or initiation of a feeling comes from inside yourself. When we work with people in the clinic or in the office, specifically at the end of a genetic report, we always end with saying a positive affirmation and having a person declare life and vitality over their lives. And what we have discovered is that the majority of people spend a lot of time in what we call stinking thinking. So if we can flip that and become a positive thinking individual, the neurochemistry in the brain and in the body changes.
Well, it really does, and you're talking about epigenetics. That's a whole science in itself, and we've looked at that from a bunch of various angles, and we know that people become like the 5 people they hang out with the most, and so we've got to pick our friends. Bad company can corrupt good morals. I mean, that's kind of how that is. And so, we've got to think about who we're hanging out with. If you can't see change in that environment, you probably need to separate yourself from that environment. That's not a bad thing.
Well, let's just take caregiving of an elderly individual who may either have cancer or is facing the end of times. A lot of times what comes from their mouths or from their actions is not always positive, and that can be a wearing thing. Well, what can we do about it? Of course, we can change our thinking, or we can perhaps maybe go out for a walk. We know that exercise is a great form of an antidepressant. Did you know that your body creates its own pharmaceuticals? And when you exercise and get blood, oxygen, and nutrients to your tissues, you, in essence, help your body make those neurotransmitters: dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin, which are the happy chemicals.
Yeah, like serotonin. I was reading something just recently about serotonin. Really, it's this neurotransmitter, or let's call it a neurosignaling molecule that actually helps the body be not depressed. In other words, it helps you be content, right? And it does require good nutrition to get there. We can't minimize that. People today are taking SSRIs, selective serotonin response or reuptake inhibitors. So they're trying to take what you have pharmaceutically and keep it out front. Okay, fine, good, no problem. If somebody's getting ready to jump off the cliff, do that. But what if we could understand how we create it more inside of our body? Again, 95% of that is created in and around the gut. So what if our gut health was a problem? Could that affect our ability to create that chemical? And does that affect the phenomena we call depression?
Absolutely. The majority, like you said, of serotonin is produced in the gut. And if we have a dysfunctional gut microbiome, remember we have live teeming bacteria that live in our gut. And if the population there becomes more on the quote unquote negative side, they're all excreting toxicity into the system. And we have this thing called the gut brain axis. What's produced in the gut is absorbed into the system and it's circulated throughout the system. And the brain is no exception. So that brain tissue is affected by the health of the gut microbiome, which goes back to basics. The most important medical decision that you make every single day is where? It's at the end of your fork. And we call those fork curls.
Yeah, I like that. And really, we need to understand that gut brain axis or gut brain connection. And this is blows my mind. We send 5 times or more signals from the gut to the brain as opposed from the brain to the gut. The gut is sometimes referred to as the second brain. I'm not sure it's not the first brain, but the bottom line is there's so much interconnectivity within our body. And it all goes back to a good lifestyle. You mentioned walking, nutrition that can help us with depression. And I think that's outstanding. And sometimes just separating ourselves from a situation for a time is going to provide some great benefits too.
Yes, and of course we have to look at other things like sometimes we will self-medicate. We will have a glass of wine or cocktail, or we're consuming alcoholic beverages thinking that that might actually be the help, but it's actually a depressant.
Oh my gosh, some of these things that we use as coping
Other
mechanisms, they're not healthy, and they can become negative. I mean, very negative, addicting behaviors that can bring other sort of scenarios of destruction. So, folks, when we talk about this idea of depression, it's a big deal. We're not minimizing it all, but we want you to know there's a way out. We want you to know there's hope. We want you to know there's pathways out of your own prison. We've talked about some solutions. We hope that you have some encouragement today in that. We hope that it gives you a little bit of hope. We hope your fire of, and then maybe the ignition switch of some sort of a victory out there can be had. So if we can help you, please reach out to us. We appreciate you.
And you can read our book, The Narrow Road.
There you go.
The dead hang, a performance exercise you can do at home.
Find out what it is up next.
Let's shine the spotlight on one of our star supplements.
The human body can make most of the types of fats it needs from other fats or raw materials, but not omega-3 fatty acids, also called omega-3 fats or N3 fats.
These are essential fats that the body must get from food.
Biomega 1000 provides a potent dose of omega-3 essential fatty acids sourced from a strategically placed fishing facility in the far South Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile.
Each capsule delivers an impressive 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, and the capsules also contain vitamin E. See the link below for a special offer, and remember, don't be fooled by cheap online knockoffs.
Introducing OK Movie Stream, your ticket to a world of cinematic classics and wonders, right from the heart of Oklahoma and the surrounding areas.
The Neals are moving to Oklahoma.
Dive into a world of captivating stories and extraordinary talent, all on OK Movie Stream.
Oh yeah, I did. You see, I gave you a crazy look because I
Choose the option that suits you best. Watch for free with commercials, binge watch your favorites for 3 days, or unlock ad-free streaming for just $10 a year. Join the OK Movie Stream community today and embark on a cinematic journey like never before.
Our flagship product is called Kingdom Fuel. Tell us a little bit about Kingdom Fuel and why it's so good.
We saw people struggling with the idea and concept of it's too expensive to eat healthy. So we thought, okay, that's the problem. Let's find a solution. So we found a solution for $5 or under per meal. And that represented the birth of the idea of Kingdom Fuel. So Kingdom Fuel is organic pea protein. It's got greens and reds in it. So this is the phytonutrients from green plants and red plants that we all talk about. Eat your vegetables, right? It's also got vitamins and minerals in it. So it's got a complete complex of that. and it's got also soluble and insoluble fiber, which the difference between the two is profound. Soluble actually gathers moisture and makes you full, and the insoluble goes through the system and grabs things like damaged particles.
The body runs on nutrients, it doesn't run on medication. And Kingdom Fuel is a complete multivitamin and
Yep.
mineral. Every now and then people get a hitch in their get along, and we want to talk a little bit about some of the alternatives that you can do besides, going in for physical therapy. What can you do at home to help yourself get better?
Well, people are wondering right now what a hitch in your get along is, right? Let me just define that for you. So it's when you
Get a
have
catch.
these things that just sort of, they're injuries, they're little nuisances. You're limping around, you're achy, you're walking crooked. You just can't get rid of the pain or the discomfort. That would be a hitch in your get along.
Yes. One of the really common popular things to kind of stretch the connective tissue or the fascia from your fingers to your toes is something called the dead hang. Give people an idea of what the dead hang is and kind of how it works.
Well, I actually did that today. No kidding. We was preparing for this particular segment today, and it was a time that I typically do those. So today was the day I actually did it. Now, a dead hang is not hanging dead meat like you hang a dead deer up or
Yeah,
something. I've
thank
done
you
that
for-
before.
thank
That's
you
one
for
version
being
of a dead
definitive
hang,
on that.
right? It's not hanging a dead person. No, it's actually grabbing a bar and just hanging on with a grip strength like this and extending your arms upwards and letting the body just kind of pull down. And it feels pretty good. And I typically do that for about 30 seconds. Now, some people say that's a long time. Some people might say it's a short time. But I do several sets of 30 seconds because it really decompresses my spine. And it makes sense that the spinal column is lined up there and you're allowing your weight to pull. You're going to get some separation there from that. And again, chiropractors do that in their office sometimes with machines, like a traction machine. But this is something that you can do on your own.
Well, I think one of the main ways that it really works is if you take the body and you take everything out of the body, but you leave the fascia intact, you're going to have a holographic image of the body in fascia. And a hitch in the get along is often like a snag in the fish net, if you will. You have a hitch in your fascia. It could be in your knee, it could be in your shoulder, it could be in your hip. And if you're doing a dead hang and you're hanging with the weight of your body, that fascia kind of gets a little heat to it. That hysteresis occurs, that stretching occurs, that lengthening occurs, and oftentimes it, quote unquote, will iron out the hitch
Yeah.
in the get along. And like you said, when you're hanging there, you can get some decompression in the discs of the spine, the lumbar spine, the thoracic spine, all the way up into your neck and shoulders.
Well, it does. And sometimes as we get older, we get a little bit of the compression on the front of that spinal column just by, those discs getting a little bit old, right? And so, that happens. That's why people sort of start off walking very tall and eventually sort of, slouch forward to get that arch, right? But you can sort of prevent that by doing some hangs like this. And I like to use it for grip strength as well. And you could flip it around if you want to and do the reverse. It's called an inversion table. And sometimes those are like where you can hook your feet and you lie backwards and like hang down from the feet being hooked. So it's kind of the opposite, but it does the same thing.
Just don't do that alone.
No, don't do that. I'm stuck. Right?
When you start with the dead hang, sometimes that might seem impossible for somebody who hasn't done any physical activity in years. They can actually start with their feet on a bench
Yeah.
and just slowly, begin to hang with more and more of their body weight as they get stronger and stronger. Like you said,
Yeah.
it does improve the grip strength because you're actually having to hold your body up as you hang. So it's going to improve that musculoskeletal strength in your hands. Also, oftentimes when you're hanging, you will engage the core so that your body just doesn't collapse and pull out your shoulder girdle while you're
That's
hanging.
right.
So your body has this natural protective mechanism that's going to occur at the level of the core when you're doing a hang.
Oh, no question. There's machines out there that you can do this on that are kind of weight assisted. Like there's some machines that people might be familiar with, like they're pull-up assist machines where you can put your knees on a pad and grab the bar ahead, and you can use that to kind of work your way up where you can actually hold yourself up. Uh, Little tools like this that you can use to kind of help with that strengthening of the hands, but moreover, the lengthening of the column again, and just kind of stretch it out. I love how you put the example about how that it sort of can unsnag you, or it can sort of take the foil that's been wrinkled and it can kind of straighten it back out again by just the usage of your body weight.
Yeah, it irons out the snag in the
Yeah.
fishnet. And we have a piece of equipment at home. It is a hanging Roman chair
Hmm.
where you can turn around and actually put your elbows on it,
Yep.
so you can decompress from mid-thorax, the middle of the spine, down through your legs, or you can literally hang and utilize your grip strength and stretch from the tip of your fingers to the tip of your toes.
Yeah, and I'll do a lot of those Roman chair sit-ups is what you call, where you're grabbing these handles with your hands, and your elbows are on pads, and
Right.
you're lifting up your lower body just by the strength of your abs and low back, and that really helps not only decompress you, but you can also use it as a strength training movement.
Yes, so and these can all be done at home, and a piece of equipment like that is probably $100 or less.
Oh yeah, they're even cheaper than that today because people use them as coat hangers. Just joke there, but you can go out and find those things almost like near unused equipment all the time. And so consider an inversion table. Consider a Roman chair sit-up machine, and both of those will do the same thing. And then you can really help yourself with some low back pain and maybe even some abdominal strengthening and low back strengthening as well. These are great adjuncts for a home gym, if you will, and it doesn't take but a few minutes a day, and maybe it's just what you need. Now, don't take the dead hangs in a negative way. Make a dead hang part of your life, and you'll see that it can help a little bit with your core.
How can boosting your daily nutrition save you money? I'm Dr. Michele Sherwood.
And I'm Dr. Mark Sherwood. Kingdom Fuel costs about a third of the average lunch and will supersize your nutrition.
Our unique meal shakes are balanced, low glycemic, rich in fiber with 20 grams of clean protein, essential vitamins and minerals, healthy fats, and organic fruits and vegetables.
Kingdom Fuel is a simple start to a transformed life.